Recently, I did a video responding to another content creator, and honestly, I wasn't sure if many people would be interested in this new format, but to my surprise, it turned out pretty well, and since I enjoyed making that video, I thought I'd make a response to another video I had issues with. This time it's from a YouTuber whose name I think is pronounced SnowiestAngeman. If I'm being honest, I have no idea what name this guy goes by, so I'm just going to call him Snow in this video. My opinions of Snow's YouTube content are a bit mixed. I like his appreciation videos of the Yakuza soundtracks, yet I've never been too interested in his actual reviews. But recently, I watched his video where he revisits Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I found it to be very bizarre in terms of Snow's argumentation, and I want to make a response to explain exactly why I take issue with his video. Unlike my previous response, I'm not going to play all of Snow's video, not only because he plays copyrighted music, but there's a 10-ish minute section that I have pretty much no criticisms for. But anyways, I'll now begin my response.
Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, or Yakuza 8, RGG 8, Like a Dragon 8, whatever you want to call it, was obviously the 8th entry in the Like a Dragon series. It was a direct sequel to the first turn-based RPG of this series, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and probably at some point in this year, or after the next turn-based game releases, this statement will become irrelevant, but there's always been a lot of, let's just say, disagreements regarding this game. Most of them lean towards the "this is the worst game ever made" crowd.
While I've seen plenty of people call Infinite Wealth a disappointing game, rarely do I see people refer to it as terrible or one of the worst games ever made. I'm sure that there's some people who feel that way, but based on the discourse I've seen, this seems like an exaggeration of how negative people are towards Infinite Wealth.
So now that it's been a year since its initial release, I thought to just look back on it and see exactly what it did or didn't do.
I don't have any issues with this statement in particular, since it's just Snow explaining what the video should be about, but I'll be referencing it later when I discuss one of the issues with Snow's video.
The reason why I said that statement might become irrelevant is because as of the time of this video, this is the most recent game in the RGG franchise that has actually been released, but next month, as you might know, we are getting a brand new game. And a lot of people on the internet, I'm not sure why, perhaps there's a hidden point leaderboard I don't understand and this gets you a lot of points, but they like to think that everything new is automatically bad. But are they right with this one?
Okay, now I just have no idea who Snow is arguing against. I have never seen anyone argue that Infinite Wealth is a bad game because it's new. Unless you're assuming that most people who hate Infinite Wealth only do so because it's new, which you have no way to actually prove. This introduction of Snow's video does give the impression that he's poisoning the well, making critics of the game seem unreasonable before he actually addresses their points. But surprisingly, it's followed by a section that I actually liked, where Snow discusses how Infinite Wealth improved upon 7's combat while still acknowledging its issues. I feel like it would be kind of reductive to include that whole section, since it would just be 10 minutes of me saying that I agree, so I'd recommend clicking on Snow's video and watching the combat section for yourself. It goes on from 0 minutes and 53 seconds to 11 minutes and 48 seconds.
But anyway, there were so many things that they could have gotten right, but they just didn't. And you know what else they didn't get right? The story. It's something talked about a lot. In all honesty, it's probably the main thing people complain about with this game. Beyond, of course, the New Game Plus DLC that people who probably were never going to do a second playthrough anyway complained about, and so instead of just not buying the DLC, they didn't buy the game, which was a very logical and reasonable and a really, worthwhile protest.
This point really surprised me. I've seen a lot of people talk about New Game Plus being locked behind a paywall, but never have I seen anyone take Sega's side in this discourse. Saying that most people were never going to play New Game Plus anyway is a really tone-deaf response that ignores the actual issue people have. This is not only an issue in of itself, but could lead to RGG making more decisions like this if they don't receive any backlash. I'd also like to ask Snow exactly how the people protesting are being unreasonable. Not wanting to support a company for their negative business practices is a completely valid reason not to buy the game. I also don't know what was the point of showing that Infinite Wealth sold well, as if that invalidates anyone who has protested against the game. A company can still have shitty business practices while doing well financially. It's not always just one or the other. Snow's argument is also very ironic, with the benefit of hindsight, with RGG announcing that Pirate Yakuza will offer New Game Plus for free, which kind of undermines the idea that the protests against Infinite Wealth were pointless. I consider this the worst part of Snow's video, since I consider defensive negative business practices to be a lot worse than defensive bad writing. But anyways, I'll now move on to the story section.
Yeah, the story had a lot of complaints. I mean, it doesn't help that it opens up with a promising romance for a Yakuza protagonist. Finally, but never mind, they completely ruined everything, which results in a funny scene right afterwards, but then nothing else about it is funny. It's just kind of sad.
Personally, I'd say that the romance between Ichiban and Saiko is lower on the list when it comes to issues with Infinite Wealth, but it's still a completely valid criticism when considering how little the game does with it, especially the ending cutscene, which plays the entire thing for laughs. But anyways, Snow does a quick recap of Infinite Wealth to give the viewer an idea of how chaotic the storyline is, along with providing a spoiler warning for the rest of the video. I don't really see the point of letting it all play out since I don't have anything to say about it, but if you want to watch it, it goes on from 12 minutes and 25 seconds to 13 minutes and 21 seconds.
Anyway, throughout the story, as one might expect, there's lots of twists and turns. And considering this isn't Judgment, and is one of every other Yakuza game, of course these twists range from to shit. For example, one such twist is that they were just like, Arakawa didn't have that one and only love he talked about because he got some other woman pregnant, and long story short, Ichiban, your brother is Johnny Gat from Saints Row.
I completely agree about this being a bad plot twist. We're given no indication that Arakawa is the type of guy to cheat on the woman he loves, so this comes across as extremely out of character for him.
Another one that isn't surprising but is still interesting is that Bryce and the whole religion is bad, but if you pay attention during the first cutscene of the game, you sort of know Bryce is already going to be evil.
I agree with this also. The reveal of Bryce being evil isn't bad, but it's very easy to predict, especially with the context of the first cutscene.
There was also the seemingly quite interesting Wong To and everything to do with his group that just flies straight out the window because he dies 20 seconds later.
Once again, I completely agree. Infinite Wealth provided such a strong introduction of this character, only to kill him off a few hours later. I genuinely have no idea why RGG chose to do this, other than wanting to kill someone off for shock value.
Hanawa also suffered the problem of being written for a game just to die, but then the sort of prequel story written later makes him an amazing character, so then he's just kind of wasted, like Nishiki in Yakuza 1 existing just to tragically die, but in Zero he's a beast because Gaiden was released before Infinite Wealth but was very clearly written after it. So Hanawa, who in a very cool way was secretly Morinaga from Yakuza 5, just explodes into a million pieces.
I agree with Hanawa's death being another example of missed potential, but I don't know if I agree with him being an amazing character in Gaiden. I'd say the biggest problem with Hanawa is how dedicated he is to the Daidoji, despite them being insanely incompetent throughout the story of Gaiden. It's a pretty large aspect of Hanawa's personality, and it doesn't make much sense. I still think he's a good character, but I'd hesitate to call him an amazing one because of this issue.
Fortunately, some characters like Sawashiro were consistently written between games because even though he seems to not be on your side, he will forever be loyal to Arakawa, so he is on your side.
I agree that Sawashiro was one of the characters who's consistently written in both Infinite Wealth and 7. Despite him being very underutilized by the story, I can't think of any inconsistencies with how he's written.
But there was someone like Ichiban who just isn't at all the same character. Eiji, the guy who encourages you to quit playing game and who chills in a wheelchair, secretly was a bad dude who betrays you, and then it really felt like they deleted a bit of a character arc for him of people betraying him because he just sort of disappears and then reappears very different. But anyway, Ichiban for some reason still trusts him. Now that just doesn't make sense. I mean, Ichiban's not the sort of guy who would forgive someone for trying to get him and all of his friends killed. Like, Ichiban would not be friends with this dude basically, and yet here he is at the end forgiving him. It's just so weird.
Pretty much all of this is spot on. We don't really get an explanation for why Eiji is back in Japan. The writers underplay how awful he is by acting like he still has a chance at redemption. And Ichiban still chooses to trust Eiji despite him having zero redeeming traits. I consider it one of the worst scenes in Infinite Wealth, if not the worst.
And then one of the biggest problems that people have with the story is Chitose. She's one of the party members, and certainly more so than Tomizawa, is one of the most important friendly newcomers in the story. Now, a lot of people, and I mean a lot, really hate her. And I can very easily tell you what the biggest reason for that, which I 100% agree on. It was because... It's for the same reason that everyone hates Park from Yakuza 5. It's because she's a woman. Yeah, like, the whole story of Infinite Wealth is super shit, and the whole game sucks, and it's terrible. There's absolutely nothing redeeming about the game at all, because it has a woman who does the wrong thing, but regrets it immensely, and lives with a lot of guilt, and tries to make up for it.
I didn't know Snow was the kind of person to call people sexist for disliking female characters, but I guess that I was wrong. But ignoring how incredibly bad faith Snow is being right now, I also take issue with the argument he uses to defend Chitose. While Chitose has shown remorse for her actions, I feel like Snow is ignoring a lot of the context which gave people reasons to hate her. The first example of this is with the plot point of getting Ichiban drunk and leaving him naked on a beach. This is by all means an awful thing to do, but when Ichiban questions her about why she did this, the writers more or less make light of the whole thing, and none of the characters will really hold a grudge against Chitose. There's also the scene where she reveals that Eiji was manipulating the entire group, which isn't a bad thing in of itself, but the problem is that she only does this right before the attack, despite her knowing from the start that all of them are in danger. It's a really stupid decision that doesn't make much sense for Chitose's character. She has clearly built up enough confidence to go against Eiji's orders, but doesn't do so until the very last moment. But what I called the biggest issue with Chitose is that she ends up facing no consequences for her actions. Her choice to reveal her identity to the world is meant to be a big moment of character growth, where Chitose is finally owning up to what she has done. But it's pretty much ruined by the ending cutscenes, where we learn that Chitose is not only facing no consequences for her actions, but is even getting rewarded for them, since she ends up becoming the chairwoman of her family's company. Chitose faces a noticeable lack of consequences for her actions, and the fact that she shows some remorse doesn't really fix the issue. And on a side note, plenty of people dislike Park because she's a selfish and manipulative person who gets idolized for most of Yakuza 5, not because she's a woman. In a video that has already relied on a lot of straw men, I consider this example to be one of the worst, not only painting people who hate these characters as sexist, but acting like they use this criticism to say that the entire game is bad. It's especially jarring since Snow was actually making some decent arguments, only to rely on fallacious ones like this.
I can already hear you. I already know what you're thinking. Yes, he agrees with us. The hive mind. Infinite Wealth. It's a tragically awful game. He's joined the ranks of everyone else on YouTube who hate the game for all of the very clearly defined and reasonable reasons.
It hasn't even been a minute, and Snow is already creating more straw men, where apparently all the Infinite Wealth critics wanted is for Snow to think that the entire game is terrible. Why are you focusing on people that might not exist, rather than actually addressing the people who disagree with you? Personally, I didn't come into this video for you to validate my opinions. All I wanted was for a level-headed analysis of the game that would praise things it does well and criticize things it doesn't. That seemed to be the intention based on your introduction, and you made some genuinely good points about the combat, but as a whole, this video is a mess. Your tone also implies that criticisms towards the game aren't clearly defined or reasonable, when you can find plenty of reasonable criticisms people have towards Infinite Wealth, such as the rushed pacing in the last few chapters or the poorly realized antagonists. Whether you agree with these issues or not, your attitude towards criticism of these games is very dismissive and makes you come across as biased.
Who do you think I am? I am a man capable of my own thoughts, who decides things based on his own free will, and most importantly, who enjoys things even though they're the newest and are popular. I am a man who played Infinite Wealth with my headphones on. I am a man who understands that any and all criticism towards Infinite Wealth are irrelevant, because how the fuck can you possibly criticize a game that has this?
I'm going to skip over this next section since I'd rather not risk another copyright strike, but Snow basically just plays Yamai's theme from Infinite Wealth, as if this is proof that the game is actually amazing. I agree that Infinite Wealth's music is very good, but that doesn't prove anything about the game's quality.
Yeah, that's right. I liked Infinite Wealth. Hell, I loved it! I have learned over the course of the last year that apparently I was the only motherfucker on the internet that liked this game. It's a good game!
I find it bizarre that Snow is acting like he's in the minority for liking this game when it's literally one of the most popular games in the franchise.
You're allowed to admit that you liked it. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's bad. I don't give a shit if parts of the story were dumb. It was awesome. The new characters are awesome. I love Chitose. I wish she'd stop going first so I could use Burning Arrow. But she was great. Yamai, fun fact, is the GOAT. Name another game with Yamai in it. Oh, wait, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Saying that it was awesome does nothing to prove your position. It at least felt like you're trying to make arguments earlier in this video, but now you're just saying it's good because you liked it.
I love the interactions the party members have with each other. I love the feel-good nature of everything, the humor, the happiness, all of it.
I also enjoyed the interactions between the party members, but that doesn't invalidate all of the criticisms that have been mentioned.
The gameplay has its problems, but if I'm having fun, I don't care about the bad stuff because I'm having fun.
And it's completely fine if you had fun with it. But when you're trying to prove that Infinite Wealth is a great game, simply saying that it's fun does nothing to strengthen your position.
You know why? Because I go into the Sawashiro fight, he's got his 4 fighting styles, he's tough because I didn't overlevel for 17 hours like everyone else did, he's got cool and fun mechanics, and I hear his Themes of Brutality remix, and my brain explodes when I hear this shit.
It feels like Snow was almost making a point about something the game does well, but rather than elaborating on that point, he just plays Sawashiro's theme. He then does the same thing with Wong To and Ebina, but with even less justification for why these boss fights are good.
I get ready to fight some Chinese dude who I barely know, and 83 Keys like, don't worry bro, I got you. There's so many themes that are so good that it could make Pornhub bankrupt from all the brain chemicals I feel when I listen to them. But then it just keeps getting better and better and better, and then boom! Final boss time. He's got a sick intro, he's tough, he's a cool boss fight. I don't care about anything else because... Hang on. Do you hear that? Is that the approaching sounds of Chihiro Aoki? I think it might be because it's the end of Denial. Oh my god.
Similarly to Snow's look back on Gaiden, this last section makes me question what he was going for with this video. I thought that the point of these videos was to go over a Yakuza game's strengths and weaknesses, but in the end, they just start glazing the soundtrack as if that somehow refutes all the legitimate criticism being made.
Look, bro, this game, it deserved all of those Omega high ratings reviewers gave it. They cooked so hard, Zhao would be ashamed of himself.
It would be one thing if Snow just included that last section to gush over the music, but this one statement seems to confirm that he thinks this is a legitimate reason to call the game amazing, which is a pretty big false equivalency, as you can find plenty of good music that's associated with bad media. It's also weird that Snow is now referencing the high ratings after acting like he's in the minority for liking this game.
Think about this too, you can move in combat, the customization is based, basic attacks are actually good because weapon attacks work, and combo attacks and MP restorations and wall bounds and environmental attacks. Bro, you can fast travel from the map screen? Hello? The game is beyond gorgeous in that sexy HDR sheen. Hawaii looks great, the bucket list stuff makes me want to cry. I don't give a shit about Dondoko Island or Animal Crossing or any of that sort of cozy games bullshit, but I still put in the effort of getting that tuxedo because it's well done. It's cool, it's fun. You know what else? Zero Dragon Card. Yeah, that's right. Fuck Dragon Card for no particular reason, man. You know what else? A Chinese dub? To all of the haters out there, it is quite plain and simple that we did not play the same game.
You haven't done nearly enough legwork to explain why the critics are wrong about this game. You made some good points, but you also made some really disingenuous ones, and the last section just devolves into pure glazing.
For the game I played has a beautiful story about bonds and only being able to succeed in life by understanding and nurturing these bonds.
I agree that this is one of the themes of the game, but themes alone don't make a story good, especially with all the writing issues that have been mentioned.
The game I played has characters that go beyond my virtual display, for they exist within my heart. The game I played has gameplay so fun that I would gladly play it until the sun extinguishes. The game I played has visuals beyond what even the thickest dictionaries can describe. The game I played has a soundtrack that, I'm not even going to get fancy with it, makes me come. For the game I played, the game I enjoyed despite others telling me not to, the game I love with all of my heart. Well, Infinite Wealth was still pretty good, but it was Final Fantasy 16!
Once again, I have no problem with Snow enjoying this game, and he makes plenty of decent arguments when it comes to combat and certain aspects of the story, but he also relies on a lot of fallacious arguments in order to dismiss legitimate criticism. While I don't watch Snow's channel that much, I got the impression that his content was pretty decent, but his look back on Infinite Wealth is by far the worst video I've seen from him, and I hope that he doesn't take this approach when reviewing future Yakuza games. But anyways, that's all I have to say about Snow's video. If you think that there's anything I missed or got wrong, then feel free to let me know. I'm also planning on doing more response videos like this in the future, so let me know if you have any feedback when it comes to this new format. Anyways, that's about it. Thanks for watching.